to surf when I was young, kid. I still do, actually, once in a while. But when I was really young, we were in Cocoa, Florida, surfing, and there was a school of sharks came all around us. And about a 9-foot tiger shark came up and bit my board right in half. And it grabbed me by the leg and pulled me down. And so my leg was in the mouth of this giant shark. And I wasn't a Christian then. This was before I was even saved. And all of a sudden it let me go. I know God open that shark's mouth. But for the few moments, the fear that comes into you is absolutely overwhelming. I don't know if anybody ever saw Jaws and remember that old movie, but that was nothing compared to actually going through it. The fear was terrifying. And the guy next to me, just a couple of feet away, a shark ripped his leg right off. And they drug him up on the beach and blood everywhere, and he was screaming and had no leg. And so I understand fear, but that fear was nothing. Absolutely nothing compared to the fear I felt in hell. No comparison at all. And I think that was one of the greatest fears we could experience on the earth. So these are some of the things you have to endure in hell. It says in Isaiah 24:17, fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, and noise of the fear. Even the noise it's talked about. And Ted Koppel, in a presentation he did on the Nightline about a year and a half ago, he visited some prison in our country, and he spent the night there. And he couldn't believe how loud it was, that you couldn't sleep. Everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs, he said. That's what he said on the TV. And he was shocked at how people just scream and whine and all night long. So even in our earthly prisons, people are screaming. How much more in hell? And in Job 18:14, it says, the wicked ways of man, person that rejects the Lord, it shall bring him to the king of terrors. The devil is definitely the king of terrors. And I was outside now, the cell, and I looked this direction, and as I looked this way, I could see there was flames of fire. It was about 10 miles away from me. I knew it was 10 miles, and it was about 3 miles across, this pit of fire. So the flames lit up the skyline enough to see the landscape of hell, just a little bit that way. The darkness is so heavy, it just eats up any light. But there was enough to just see a little bit of the skyline. And it was all brown, desolate. I mean, absolutely not one green leaf, not anything of life of any kind. Just stone and dirt and black sky, the smog in the sky and the flames were leaping up real high so you could see it enough. And there's a scripture where in Deuteronomy 29:23 says, the whole land is brimstone and salt and burning. That is, it is not sown, nor beareth any, nor any grass groweth therein. There's no life whatsoever in hell. It's so strange to be in a world where there's no life, like we enjoy here. The trees and the fresh air and everything. None of that. It's absolutely all death and dead there. And I talked about the heat. The heat was so intense, you can't even describe it. And it says in Deuteronomy 32:22, you shall be devoured with a burning heat, suffering eternal fire in Jude 7. In Psalms 11:6, it shall rain fire and brimstone and a horrible tempest. That's what's going on down in hell. It's so hot. All these things should kill you, but you don't die from that. You have to keep enduring all these things. I wanted peace of mind to get away from the screams and just get out of there. Like if you want to go home at night when you have a day when it's been noisy or a rough day, you just want peace of mind. Well, there you're enduring all this screaming and torment, and you never ever get away from it, ever. And in Isaiah 57:21 it says, there is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. You're also naked in hell. It's just another thing to have to endure, a shame thing. And there's scriptures all about the shame and so forth. Shame in the pit, Ezekiel 32:24. And Job 26:6 says, hell is naked before him and destruction has no covering. Now that means God can see into hell. So it's observable to him. But also you are naked in hell. Just another thing to have to go through. And there is no water in hell at all. No water. There's no humidity in the air. And no water of any kind. It is so dry. You are desperate for a drop of water. Just one just like the scripture says. In Luke 16:23 and 24, the rich man said, and in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeing Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember, and he went on to talk about his brothers and so forth. But a couple points in the scripture, he wanted him to just dip the tip of his finger in water just to get one drop. That would have been precious. One drop. But you never ever get a drop. It's hard to imagine how dry your mouth is. If you can imagine doing a marathon run through Death Valley and having cotton in your mouth and staying there for days, and it just continues like that. Just dry. Absolute. Desperate for a drop of water. Another thing in the scripture quickly it revealed to me was, we knew there was a great gulf fixed between them in hell, then between paradise and Hades. And the rich man saw Abraham a great far off. In the natural, how could he recognize Lazarus and Abraham? First of all, he never met Abraham. And then to see someone that far away, you wouldn't really know who they were. But it's just certain things you know in hell, you understand. Like I was saying, the depths, the how far away and so forth. And one of the demons grabbed me and dragged me back into the cell and began all these torments again, which I'd really hate to talk about that part because I just don't like to have to relive the torment. But they began to crush my skull. One demon grabbed me and tried to crush my head. And I was screaming and begging for mercy, and no mercy. About this time, they each grabbed an arm and a leg and were about to tear off my legs and arms. And I thought, I can't endure this. I can't endure this. And something grabbed me all of a sudden and pulled me out of the cell. I know it was the Lord, but then I didn't know that. I was there as an unsaved person, so I didn't know these things. I just went there just as if I had never accepted the Lord. And I was placed over next to the fire that I had seen. I was standing alongside that pit. And I was beneath a cavern, like a giant cave, tunnel going up. And alongside the fire, I could see through the flames just enough to see bodies, people in the fire, screaming for mercy, burning in this place. And I knew I didn't want to go in there. The pain I endured already was bad enough, but the heat and the flame I knew was worse. And these people were begging to get out, and there were these big creatures lined all around the edge of it. And as the people clawed up trying to get out, they would be shoved back in to the fire and not allowed out. And I thought, oh, this place is so horrible and horrendous. All this is going on at the same time. You're thirsty and you're hungry and you're exhausted. You don't get to sleep in hell either. You need sleep just like you would now. Your body needs sleep. Revelation 14:11 says, and the smoke of their torment ascends up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night. You never get to sleep. You can imagine how that is, never sleeping. And the water again, Zechariah 9:11, the prisoners out of the pit where there is no water, absolutely no water in hell. I knew that hell's location is in the center of the earth. That's where it's at, in the center of the earth. I understood that I was about 3,700 miles deep in the earth. And we know that the earth's diameter is 8,000 miles, so halfway would be about 4,000. I was about 3,700 miles down. And in Ephesians 4:9 it says, Jesus descended into the lower parts of the earth. Numbers 16:32 says, the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and they went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon him. That's where hell is right now. Later, hell and death will be cast into the lake of fire, and it says that'll be cast into outer darkness. That's after Judgment Day, but right now it is in the earth. And I was alongside this pit of fire, and I saw all these demons all lined up along the walls, all sizes and shapes of every kind of deformed, ugly creature you can imagine. There were all twisted, deformed creatures, huge ones, small ones. There were giant spiders, huge spiders this big, and rats and snakes and worms, because the Bible talks about worms that cover thee, Isaiah 14:11. There were all kind of abominable creatures everywhere, and they seem to be chained. They seem to be chained to the walls.